Good morning, class. Today we'll be learning the second chapter from your first flight book, Long Walk to Freedom, written by Nelson Mandela. Let's look at the chapter summary in this first module. The first part of the chapter talks about the inauguration ceremony. Now, the inauguration ceremony was held on the 10th of May 1994. It's described as bright, clear, and an autumn day. And the place of inauguration is Pretoria. It was in a lovely, beautiful sandstone amphitheater. Now, an amphitheater is an open theater with no roof, and it was held there. The inauguration ceremony was held there. And this lovely amphitheater was formed by the Union Buildings. Now, the Union Buildings was previously ruled by the Britishers. The swearing-in ceremony, 3 people were sworn in that day. Firstly, it was a second deputy president. His name is Mr. de Klerk. Secondly, it was the first deputy president, and his name was Mr. Thabo Mbeki. And finally, Nelson Mandela was sworn in as the first black president of the non-racial democratic government of South Africa. Then we see the author addresses the gathering. He tells that never ever again will the land of South Africa face the discrimination of one person by the other. So he talks about certain difficulties that South Africa has been going through and the blacks have been facing because of the racial discrimination. He talks about all of that, and he finally ends his speech, ends his address by saying, "Let freedom reign and let God bless Africa." Then there's a display of jets and helicopters. Jets and helicopters fly in the air, forming the South African flag, which has 5 colors, and it formed a pattern of V, and the pattern of V is called a chevron. Now, the South African flag has a V-shaped pattern. If you Google it up, you can find it more clearly that there is a V-shaped pattern in South African flag. Then there was 2 national anthems sung. Now, the blacks' national anthem was Inkosi Sikelel iAfrika, and the whites' national anthem was Die Stem. But during this day, to celebrate this beautiful day and the installment of the non-racial democratic country and a government, the other group, that is the black, sang the whites' national anthem, and the whites sang the blacks' national anthem. This was just a way to portray the non-racial regime. Then we look at the author's regret. Now, the author regrets that the great freedom fighters and African patriots were not able to see this beautiful day, unlike how he was able to. And he remembers them, and he owes it to them, and he thanks them for fighting this hard fight. And finally, they have won it, but they were not able to see that day. And then there are freedom fighters remembered. He remembers 6 freedom fighters. Okay, the names are given in the book. Please go through that and learn that too. Then he defines courage, and he says, courage is not the absence of fear, but it is the triumph over it. If you gain victory over your fear, that is when you become a courageous man. Everyone is born with fear, and you must remember that you can't say, I don't have fear. Okay, it's an inborn character, it's an inborn trait to have fear. But if you face that fear, that's when you're a brave man. Then we look at man's duties. Man has twin obligation, one towards his family and one towards his country. In any country, he must be allowed to fulfill his obligation, fulfill his duties to both of these 2 sectors, 2 twins. That is the family and the country. But in a racial country where racism is very prominent, in a country like South Africa, a man was not able to do that. Okay, we'll look into that detailed explanation in the coming module. Then he defines freedom. He talks about transitory freedom, and he talks about permanent freedom, and he says what it means to him. Then finally, he talks about how the desire for freedom for himself and for his family and for his community and for his people has made him bold, He was a very fearful person, but now he has become a bold person because of the desire of freedom. In the coming module, we'll learn the character sketch of Nelson Mandela and some important lines of the passage.